There are places on Earth where being a billionaire still isn't enough to get in. Places behind private mountains, hidden islands, and unmarked gates, where even the merely rich are turned away at the door. No signage, no listings, no public record of who stayed there or when. To understand why the wealthiest people alive spend fortunes chasing something as simple as being left alone, you have to go inside the world they've built, specifically so the rest of us never can.
For most of history, wealth was displayed. Palaces, yachts moored in plain view, jewelry made to be seen. But somewhere in the last 3 decades, the ultra-wealthy quietly reversed course. Visibility became a liability. Today, the highest tier of luxury isn't about what you can show people. It's about what you can hide from them. A 5-star hotel can be booked by anyone with a credit card. A retreat that requires a personal introduction, a background check, and a fortune just to be considered cannot. That difference between luxury you can buy and luxury you have to be chosen for is the entire foundation of this world. Nowhere illustrates that better than a stretch of mountains in southwestern Montana. In the year 2000, 2 entrepreneurs carved out 13,000 acres of the Gallatin Range and built something that had never existed before: a ski resort with no public lift tickets. The Yellowstone Club. To even be considered, a prospective member must purchase qualifying real estate, pass a private vetting process, and pay a 6-figure initiation fee on top of an 8-figure home. Members have included Bill Gates, Justin Timberlake, Tom Brady, and reportedly Mark Zuckerberg. Fewer than 900 homeowners share a private mountain with more skiable terrain than most public resorts on the East Coast. An ecosystem of wealth so self-contained that some members are said to go entire seasons without encountering anyone who hasn't also passed the club screening. It isn't the skiing that people are paying for. It's the guarantee that no one uninvited will ever be standing on that same slope.
That same principle plays out at sea. In the British Virgin Islands sits Necker Island, 74 acres purchased by Richard Branson in the late 1970s for a fraction of what it's worth today. For decades, it existed purely as Branson's private retreat, hosting a guest list that has included heads of state and Nobel laureates long before a single outsider was ever permitted to set foot on its beaches. Even now that portions of the island can occasionally be booked, taking over the entire property still runs well into 6 figures a night. What you're renting isn't the villas or the coral reef. You're renting the certainty that for 1 week, this precise stretch of ocean belongs to no one else.
A few hundred miles away, in the southern Bahamas, illusionist David Copperfield built something even stranger: an archipelago of 11 private islands known as the Islands of Copperfield Bay, anchored by the one called Musha Cay. There is no hotel here, no separate accommodation for separate parties. Only one group, up to 24 guests, occupies the entire 700 acres at a time, at a nightly rate that can climb past $100,000. Guests have included Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates. Copperfield has said he built it for people who have, in his words, already seen everything else. When you have unlimited resources, the only remaining luxury is a place engineered so that literally no one else can be there with you. But exclusivity isn't only about geography. It's also about identity. Communities so private that most of the public doesn't even know they exist. Invitation-only societies, closed-door retreats, and members-only enclaves have existed for over a century, built around a single, unspoken rule: what happens inside stays invisible to everyone outside. Membership in these worlds is rarely advertised and almost never confirmed. Some operate as private business clubs, occupying entire floors of unmarked buildings in cities like New York and London, admitting new members only through sponsorship from someone already inside. Others take the form of annual retreats that gather founders, financiers, and heads of state for a few days a year at a single remote property, with attendance lists that are never released and press access that simply does not exist. The value in any of these worlds was never the amenities. It's That same logic extends to how the ultra-wealthy travel between these worlds in the first place. Private aviation terminals, separate from the commercial terminals entirely, allow guests to move from tarmac to car without ever passing through a public space. Some retreats maintain their own airstrips, specifically so that arriving guests never touch a shared runway. The goal isn't speed, it's continuity of privacy, making sure the invisibility that defines the destination begins the moment the plane leaves the ground, not the moment the gates close behind you. Then there's the desert, a landscape the ultra-wealthy have quietly turned into one of the most sought-after settings on Earth, precisely because it offers nothing to hide behind. In the canyons of southern Utah, the resort Almangiri was built to sit almost invisibly against the rock, its concrete structures colored to match the surrounding sandstone so precisely that from a distance, the resort simply disappears into the landscape. There are no crowds here because there is no room for them. Occupancy is capped, privacy is engineered into the architecture itself, and a night can run into the thousands of dollars specifically because so few nights are available at all. In a world of infinite noise, the desert offers something no ocean or mountain can: absolute, uninterrupted silence. Wellness has become its own form of ultra-exclusive geography. Clinics like Clinique La Prairie in Switzerland and Shaw Wellness Clinic in Spain don't market themselves as spas. They position themselves as medical institutions, with waiting lists, physician-led programs, and a clientele that includes royalty and heads of industry. For the ultra-wealthy, health has quietly become the last form of luxury that can't be counterfeited. You can buy a private jet in an afternoon. You cannot buy 10 more years of life. But you can buy the world's best attempt at it, behind walls no journalist has ever gotten past. None of this exists without an entire hidden infrastructure of protection. Family offices, private firms that manage the finances, security, and logistics of a single ultra-wealthy family, routinely employ former Secret Service agents, intelligence veterans, and counter-surveillance specialists whose full-time job is making sure their employer was never photographed, never tracked, and never located by anyone who wasn't supposed to find them. At properties like the Yellowstone Club, private security forces patrol using technology and protocols closer to a diplomatic compound than a resort. The most expensive amenity in any billionaire retreat was never the marble or the view. It was the guarantee of being unfindable. Which raises the real question underneath all of this. Why? Psychologists who study extreme wealth point to something called hedonic adaptation. The idea that once basic material desires are satisfied, the human brain simply raises the bar, chasing not more comfort, but scarcer comfort. When you already own the yacht, the jet, and the mansion, the only thing left to acquire is something money alone cannot easily buy: access. A locked door that stays locked for almost everyone is worth infinitely more than one that opens for anyone with a credit card. Exclusivity, in other words, isn't a side effect of extreme wealth. For many of the ultra-rich, it becomes the entire point. There's also a quieter motivation behind all of it: fatigue. Extreme wealth tends to arrive alongside extreme visibility. Every purchase scrutinized, every appearance photographed, every business decision second-guessed by strangers online. For people who spend most of their lives being watched, a place where no one is watching stops being a luxury and starts being a necessity. The mountain, the island, and the desert resort aren't just escapes from crowds, they're escapes from being perceived at all, which, for someone whose entire public identity is built on being seen, may be the rarest experience left to buy. And that leads to an uncomfortable truth. Money alone has never been the full price of admission. Every retreat in this world, the mountain, the islands, the desert, the clinics, requires something rarer than a fortune: a relationship, a personal introduction from someone already inside, a reputation that survives quiet, invisible vetting. Billionaires have been turned away from these places not because they couldn't pay,
but because no one on the inside was willing to vouch for them. In this world, the currency that actually matters was never dollars. It was trust. The one asset that cannot be wired, inherited, or bought outright.
The next frontier is already forming. Private members clubs are multiplying in cities from London to Singapore, each one gated behind steeper fees and steeper scrutiny than the last. Branded residences from luxury hospitality groups now let the ultra-wealthy own a permanent address inside the same walls once reserved for a week's stay. And on the horizon, a handful of companies are quietly selling tickets to the only frontier left with true scarcity, orbit itself, where for a few minutes, the ultimate retreat isn't hidden behind mountains or oceans, but beyond the atmosphere entirely.
In the end, none of these places were ever really about comfort. A 5-star hotel offers comfort to anyone who can pay for it. What Yellowstone Club, Necker Island, and Musha Cay actually sell is disappearance. The privilege of existing, for a few days or a few weeks, completely outside the reach of a world that never stops watching everyone else. And that is the quiet truth at the center of extreme wealth. The greatest luxury in the world was never what billionaires own. It's the places the world will never know they visited.